What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Birds Backfield podcast. Today it's just me and Alex, or Philly Eagles only today. We're going to be talking about the Panthers game. We missed talking about it earlier in the week, so we're going to be talking about that today. And then we're going to hit the Bucs game tonight really quick. We're going to mix them both into one episode and get this out really quick for you guys. So the Eagles lost to the Panthers last Sunday, 21-18. Was looking like it was going to be a blowout. The Eagles were going to lose, and they came back and won at the very end. It was a hard-fought victory. Alex, what were your overall thoughts about that game? How did you think that went for the Eagles?
Dude, I was not happy with what happened. Jalen Hurts was absolutely terrible outside of his late fourth quarter heroics, excuse me. He was abysmal. He was missing throws, making terrible reads. I felt like the coaching staff also was really bad. Well, not the whole coaching staff. I thought Gannon was excellent, actually. But Sirianni struggled. Rager had another bad game. They didn't use the running backs correctly, or much at all. So, yeah, I was not pleased. Even though they came back and won, I feel like there's a lot more negatives to take out of that than positives. But, yeah, I'm not pleased.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm glad you said that all first because I didn't want to have to be the first one to say it. But for starters, I thought Jalen Hurts was absolutely horrendous that day. I used abysmal on my post-game post, and people were upset about me using that word, but that was the best way to describe it. Like, he was missing absolutely every throw that was there. He just was not good on Sunday, except for the final 4 minutes of the game. I mean, he was horrible for 56 minutes of football. Like, he was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the throw to Ertz on I believe it was a fourth down, and, like, sure, Ertz could have caught that, but it was way out wide. The same thing.
Oh, that was a terrible throw, dude.
Yeah, it was bad. Like, I don't even blame Ertz for not catching that. Like, it was just a bad throw. It was the same thing as the Ward throw from the touchdown last week. Like, it was just bad. He missed wide open reads. He has horrible timing and anticipation of routes. Like, he's just not there as like a passer with a high IQ. Like, it's just, I don't see it. And every week that goes by, I don't see any improvement in that aspect. So again, I thought Hurts was absolutely horrible. Sure, the late minute heroics were nice, but like, what did he do with his arm? Like, they placed him at like within the red zone, the defense, both times that he scored, and it was with his legs. So as a passer, I just don't see it. And not that Sirianni has done a great job, but I think he hasn't really held Hurts back. I mean, he's played to what should be his strength, which is an RPO, and Hurts just cannot manage it. So,
well, the thing where if you don't mind, I'm just going to disagree with you
sure
on that. I just wanted to say, like, I think that, yeah, RPOs are a nice addition to an offense, but you can't have them be your offense. You know what I'm saying? That's like something for college. And if you're going to be an NFL coach and if you want to see your quarterback turn into an NFL quarterback, you have to just let it rip, dude. You can't be running these screens and these RPOs all game because at the end of the day, the defense is going to adjust and they're going to clamp it up, right? And we saw that last week with Carolina. So I feel like that is sort of an issue with Sirianni because he can't have this RPO offense. It's just not going to work. It's not sustainable. You have to let Jalen rip it. Even if he's not the best quarterback, you also don't have the best team, and you have to see what you have in Jalen. So I feel like that they should just let him rip it.
No, yeah, I agree with that, and I think the RPO offense works very rarely. Like, we saw it with Foles those 2 years that he was here. In those cases, it works. Now, with the type of talent Jalen is, you would expect the RPO to work better, but he just doesn't execute it. And I think Sirianni should be able to adapt to that and be like, okay, it's not working. Let's involve more actual called runs. Let's have him drop back and throw it as a passer more. So he should be able to adapt to that, but I do think he should be able to run RPOs as well to some degree. So, I mean, it goes both ways.
I'm not saying abandon the RPO. I'm saying they have to use it in spurts. And also one thing I feel like Sirianni hasn't done a good enough job at is he hasn't used Hurts as like design quarterback runs. Why not use him like Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton? Like, just like run a QB power, run a QB sweep, something. Have a triple option. Do something unique, dude.
Yeah.
It just gets boring.
I agree. Maybe it's because they want to see what he can do as a passer more than a runner. But if the running opens up the passing for him, then you kind of have to do it. So the coaching hasn't been great offensively. I will say that it hasn't played to the players' strengths.
But I'll say this too. There are a lot of quarterbacks who don't have great offensive coaches. Look at Russell Wilson, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson had he had Brian Schottenheimer, and he was.
The more I watch
We
Pete
know
Carroll, the
who
more I
Russell
think he's
Wilson
not
is.
that good.
What'd you say?
The more I see Pete Carroll, the more I think he's not as good as he once was.
He's
Like,
just a player's coach, dude.
yeah.
That's all. And we don't mean to get sidetracked about Pete Carroll, but Pete Carroll's a player's coach. That's all he is. That's all he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have great assistant coaches around him, your team is just not going to be a well-coached team. And you saw that with Seattle. Now, granted, they're running more stuff that Russell Wilson likes, like downfield passing and stuff like that. But yeah, we're sidetracked. The main point was good quarterbacks can overcome bad coaching,
Yeah.
and they can also overcome bad supporting casts. Now, does it help to have great coaching, great supporting cast? Yeah, absolutely. But Jalen has to do a better job at overcoming what's around him.
Yeah. And I think another example to kind of back that up is Aaron Rodgers. Now, of course, he's not Aaron Rodgers. He never will be. He's not. It's unfair to compare him to Aaron Rodgers, but situationally, Rodgers always had to carry the slack of McCarthy and a bad roster. And since he's gotten LaFleur, they've made the NFC Championship. They're like 20 something and 4 or 6. Like they've had like 13 3-loss seasons. Like they've been really good since LaFleur has shown up. And that's because Rodgers now has competency at the coaching position for the most part, and he has a better roster to work with. So when you can support a QB that carries the load after years of doing that, you see results. And I think that's something that the Eagles need to really look for is they need to support the quarterbacks. They've done it for years where they haven't supported their quarterback, and they're kind of showing it with Hurts a little bit, but they need to step it up in the coaching aspect, like you were saying.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to the defense, I feel like this was an amazing game for Jonathan Gannon. He switched up from more of that soft zone scheme to a lot more man to man this game. Now, granted, they did run a lot of soft zone, but it wasn't just soft zone every play. So yeah, how did you feel about the defense this game?
I thought they were really good. I mean, there wasn't really too many weaknesses there. I mean, I thought the corners, especially Slay, played amazing. He was locked. I mean, he played really well against DJ Moore, who I
Mm-hmm.
personally think is one of the elite receivers. Like, DJ Moore's a stud in my opinion, and he was pretty locked up from Slay. So I thought the corners played really well. I thought Cox had a great game. A nice rebound. He really opened it up for Hargrave. I thought he was good. Sweat had a nice game. Barnett's just Barnett at this point. I mean, what are you going to do about that? And I thought the linebackers weren't horrible. I thought TJ Edwards had a pretty solid game, and so did Wilson. So, I mean, it was a good game from the defense. Now, is that Sam Darnold or is that the defense? I don't know, but I thought it was a good game.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's fair to say that the defense played well, but also Sam Darnold wasn't great.
Yeah.
There were some really bad reads that game by Sam Darnold. Like the one
Mm-hmm.
to Steven Nelson was just abysmal.
Yeah, it was
Um,
bad.
yeah, he
And I'm a
threw.
huge Darnold fan,
Yeah,
but he had a bad game.
hmm he literally threw one right to Darius Slay, like right in the numbers too.
Yeah,
Now, granted, the first interception, I feel like that's just a great play by Slay
I agree.
because he
Yeah.
really baited them on that play. But yeah, I thought the defense was really good. I saw a stat that every single defensive lineman on the Eagles roster well, not every single defensive line, but every starting defensive lineman had a pressure, which is really impressive. And I thought that that's like the first time since 2016 that's ever happened to any team, not just the Eagles. So that was really, really impressive. Now, granted, the Panthers have a really bad offensive line. Taylor Moton, I think he's been really bad this year, and they paid him a lot of money too. But yeah, their offensive line hasn't been great, but still, it's impressive for this Eagles defensive line to go and just dominate like that because Sam Darnold had no time whatsoever.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think to your original point you made earlier in the podcast was that Gannon had an amazing game. I mean, schematically, he was on par the entire game. I mean, the line, the blitzes, everything was good with the scheme for the defense that game. So I thought Gannon was probably the largest stock up of anybody on the team. I really thought Gannon had his best game so far as an Eagle.
Yeah, definitely. No, week one, you could make an argument for week one that he was better, but this game, I think he was playing a better offense, a better
Yeah,
team in
definitely.
general.
Better
So,
coordinator, better
yeah.
everything, and he played. I think even schematically, I mean, it was just a better game than. And Atlanta was good, but
They
I
also
thought.
forced more turnovers this game than they did in Atlanta.
What was that?
I said they also forced more
Yeah,
turnovers this game
that's
than they
another
did in
thing. So I
Atlanta.
thought they really, when they needed to, they played better this game.
Yeah, 100%. I have to make this one point about Jonathan Gannon, though, because I was listening to some podcasts and doing some research, and the Eagles run the least amount of dime coverages in the league. I think I did hear that.
I heard that too.
Yeah, and I thought that I feel like everybody's going to blame Jonathan Gannon for that, but I'm actually going to, and I'm going to blame Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman for that. Before I explain why I'm blaming them for that, I have to actually explain what a dime defense is. It's basically when you have 6 defensive backs on the roster, and
2
Eagles run the least
linebackers,
amount.
right?
I think it's one. Okay, so there are variants of it. Like you can run like 2 linebackers and 3 defensive linemen.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it's 6 defensive backs on the roster or on the play.
Yeah.
And what's so confusing to me about that is why the hell is Jonathan Gannon your defensive coordinator if you're going to run the least amount of dime in the league? Like, don't you like? Why are you relying so much on your linebackers? Why the hell was this guy hired if he's going to run a linebacker heavy scheme?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an issue. Now, granted, they might have said, "Oh, well, Gannon's really talented. We think he's really smart. This year's we're probably not going to do much anyways, so we'll get the personnel in the upcoming seasons." But still, I don't like it. It doesn't make sense that hire. Now that I think about it more and more, and maybe he'll shut me up talking about Gannon here. But yeah, I don't think the hire makes sense after I just look at it more and more.
All right, sorry about that cut, guys, but we were talking about Jonathan Gannon, and Alex made the point of how it was a bad hire, or it's looking like one because of the way they're running the scheme. And I entirely agree with that. I think he made a really solid point because Gannon's always been known for his ability to revive defensive backs. That's why he was a D-backs coach before he was a he was a D-backs coach in Indy, and he revived the career of Xavier Rhodes. And now he's here, and his specialty again is defensive backs as the D coordinator. And they're having him run a linebacker heavy scheme, and it just doesn't make sense on a team that's always needed defensive back help. Last week against the Chiefs, you saw Tyreek Hill burned one of the linebackers. It might have been either Edwards or Wilson. I can't remember which one.
It was Wilson.
It was Wilson, yeah. He burned him for a touchdown. And everybody's like, well, why is he even in that situation? That's not Wilson's fault. He's just in a shitty or really bad situation. And that fell on Gannon at the time. But it doesn't make sense why they're running that sort of defense. And I don't think that's Gannon's call. I think that comes from up higher, probably Sirianni and Howie, like you said. So, and especially like you said, this is a developmental year. This is a figuring it out year. So why are you not running, a defense with more D-backs on the field and you're kind of prioritizing building the younger guys up? It just doesn't make sense how they're running this defense as far as what they're telling Gannon to do. Play to his strengths, play to your team's strengths. Don't play to what you want because that's not how it's going to work, especially when you won't invest in the linebacker position in free agency or the draft.
Well, here's my thing. Are they planning on finally adding a linebacker? Because to run the scheme that they're running right now, you have to have somebody solid in that linebacking group. Like, are they going to go out and get somebody? Like, I don't even know who the heck is available this offseason. So,
yeah, I don't either.
Like, what's the plan here? If you're going to run a linebacker heavy scheme, you have to have good linebackers, and this organization doesn't. Their philosophy is against the linebacker position.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense to do it before you have the linebacker. Like, I'm pretty sure the Eagles probably believe they can somewhat compete or win games this year. I don't imagine they're going into the season saying we're going to tank. So it doesn't make sense why they play a scheme that doesn't play to their strengths, So I don't know why they would play a linebacker scheme without having the pieces that, the linebackers that would make them better. So, I mean, like you're saying, it kind of, their philosophy and then what they do it just never aligns.
Yeah, 100%. So now, if you want, we can move on to the Tampa Bay game. That is actually tonight. We're recording this podcast the day of the game. Nick is actually going to the game, so we're recording this super early. But yeah, like, what are your thoughts about this game? I'm sure they're not pretty because mine aren't.
Yeah, mine aren't pretty. I mean, it's the Bucs. I mean, they're a good team. I don't know what their record is, but they just have a really good roster, and I don't know. I don't think they'll have Gronk tonight. Brady has a hurt hand, but he's going to play. So, I mean, I don't know if it'll be a blowout, but I'm not expecting a win at the very least. So, I think this is one of those games where you go into it and you say, all right, well, we're not going to win, but let's see what we can get as far as a moral victory. Like, what can we pull out of the hat and come out of this game and say, okay, well, we did that really well, or we did that really bad, and we got to correct that. I think that's what really we're looking at. As far as score, I mean, if they dropped 35 on us, I wouldn't be shocked. The Bucs got a good defense. I would probably expect a few turnovers from them forced on us. It could be an ugly game. It could get really ugly.
Yeah, so I'm on the side of it being really, really, really ugly. I have the Eagles losing this game 34-10. I just think while yes, they're dealing with some injuries, and it's not just Tom Brady and Gronk, it's Levante David who's out. Antoine Winfield is out. But
really?
last week they were dealing with the same injuries and they blew out Miami big time. And you could make a solid argument that Miami's a better team than us. Now, granted, Tampa was at home. This is at Lincoln Financial Field, so I don't know if the crowd's going to have a factor. But yeah, I don't see this game being pretty for Philadelphia. Not at all.
Yeah, I think it could. They'll probably do the thing they always do, where it's like 34-10, and then they'll score a touchdown or so late in the game, and then it looks closer than it really was, and then fans make excuses. But I mean, for the entirety of this game, I expect it to be pretty ugly.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Birds Backfield podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, we should be back hopefully soon for the recap of the Eagles and Buccaneers game. Now, Nick, if you want to say your score prediction, sorry, I forgot to leave you out on that.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I think I said like 35 they'll drop on us, so I'll just go like 37 to, let's say 14. 37-14 is where I think we're probably sitting at.
Okay. All right, guys. Take care. We'll be back next week for hopefully a preview game of the Raiders, who are just a disaster right now. But yeah, and I may actually pick us to win that game. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked.
That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Anyways, take care, you guys, and yeah, peace out.
Thing has always been he was a D-backs coach, and then in Indy he revived Xavier Rhodes.
Hey, bro, my food's here.
All right,
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, man? Doing all right, man. Appreciate you, bro. You too.
That's staying in the pod.
Huh?
I said that's staying in the pod.
Just put it at like the end or something.
Yeah.